Hi my lovely Frosty fam, it's me, Karen Frost, here in Nail Decadence, and I've got another video for you. In this video I'm going to be doing an acrylic set using some very bright groovy purple glitter. It's a glitter mix from Smiley's. You know me, I've got quite a few glitters from Smiley's, and this is the mix. It's kind of psychedelic, it's really cool. And there we go. I left it in. I thought, you know what, this is what happens with me. I make a mess. So I thought I'd leave it in, show you the mess that I made with the glitter. We all do it. I know you've done it. You've flicked your glitter everywhere. I know you have, don't lie. Anyway, using my Handolly as usual. So this is the old style with the stick-on tips. They're no longer stick-on tips, they are slide-in tips, so there's no soaking off or anything like that needed, no nail guards needed. So yeah, if you'd like to get yourself a Handolly, check out www.handolly.co.uk. use my code FROST10 for a discount. You're most welcome to. That's my affiliate code, so do bear in mind it is an affiliate code. Okie dokes, so let's get on with what I'm doing. I have already prepared the nails and applied some very long squared curved tips, so they're like the C-curve tips, square ones, very long. I decided to give those a go, so I've applied them, blended them in, put my thin clear base on, and then going in with the design. So on the middle finger I'm doing a line of glitter down the center, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it get wider as it goes towards the tip. So it starts off a bit sort of a third of the width in the middle down the center of the nail, and as it goes down towards the tip I'm extending it out so it sort of flares out slightly, so by the time it reaches the tip there will be less of the cover pink on either side, if that makes sense. I just wanted to show off the glitter because it's got such big big particles, so it's, you know, those holographic silver hexagons, they are really quite large, and it's got some little black discs in there and tinsel and all. It's there's so much packed into this glitter mix. I really wanted to show it off, so I thought if I go a bit wider as I go down the nail I would show off a bit more of the glitter. That was my thinking behind it anyway. I think it worked. But yeah, because it's a chunky glitter mix, it is a bit finicky. You've got to, you know, mess with it a fair amount. Make sure you get all the bits where you want them to go. You can see I'm just sort of widening that line now down the center because I want to show off all of those wonderful glitter bits. It's such a crazy mix, but yeah, it's a little, because it is a chunkier mix, it's a little bit trickier to work with, and you do want to make sure that you're getting the pieces to lay flat as well. You don't want them sticking up because you'll end up filing into them. I'm picking up the glitter with just a very small wet bead of clear acrylic, and that will allow me to pick the glitter up and apply it, and obviously as the acrylic sets it will hold those glitter pieces in place for me. So now that I've done that bit, I will use a wet bead of clear acrylic over the top to just help secure those pieces in place and also encapsulate them, of course. But if you use a wetter bead over the top first, it kind of seeps into all the little nooks and crannies and gaps, and you're less likely to get an air pocket or an air bubble that way. So that's why I like to do it that way. So I will leave that to set up and move on to the little finger, and again I'm using the glitter with a small bead of clear acrylic, applying that to the very tip of the nail and extending that down towards the center of the nail, or the middle of the nail I should say, towards the cuticle area of course. So just making sure I get some of those big silver bits in there as well. because you can, if you really want to, you could pick out bits that, you know, you do or don't want. You can be a bit selective with your choices. I wanted to make sure that I got a bit of everything on each nail, so, well, on each nail that has the glitter, of course. That's yeah. This nail's actually going to be an ombre nail, so you'll see I'm just going to pack on the glitter a sort of a third of the way down towards the, or up, whichever way you look at it, third of the way, and then I'll fade over the cover pink over the top of that. You see I just selected some of those silver bits to just get them on as well. Do like those silver bits, they reflect such pretty holographicness. It's just holographicness, that's not even a word, is it? Never mind, I'm making up words. Yeah, it's just, they are so holographic, these pieces. I wanted to make sure I got a good few of those on. There we go, look at that. Oh, lush. There are, this is a sort of purple, it's a purple glitter mix, but it's got sort of blue pieces in it as well. It's got like blue tinsel and stuff in it, so it's not fully purple mix, if that makes sense. It's a really interesting but very pretty glitter mix. Oh, I've decided to keep going a bit higher, so I've just a little bit over a third of the way up. Let that set up and move on to the index finger. Same again, applying the glitter with clear beads of acrylic. God, I totally forgot what it was then. Yes, clear beads of acrylic. Apply that glitter on, and whilst I'm doing that, because you know it's pretty much the same as the little finger, I'll ask you how you're doing. I hope you're all doing okay. The world is a mess. Not only are we in a pandemic, but there is now a war, and that is quite disturbing and must be terrifying for the people of Ukraine and also Russia, because they'll be affected regardless, won't they? Scary times. I didn't think I'd see World War III in my lifetime, but it may well be happening. So prayers and thoughts for the people of Ukraine, and also the innocent people that are in Russia. It's not necessarily their fault, of course, that their leader decided to invade. So scary times indeed. So yeah, let's give some thoughts and prayers out to the Ukraine and to Russia, and pray that peace will come sooner rather than later, before things get worse. Sad times, huh? Anyway, I'm going to move on from this subject. I just wanted to acknowledge it because it just wouldn't feel right not acknowledging what's going on in the world, you know. So what I've done is I've wiped my brush off really well, and I've turned over my kitchen roll, because obviously my kitchen roll has lots of glitter on it, and so did my brush. So I wanted to make sure I gave my brush a really good clean, get all the glitter particles out, and turn over my kitchen roll so that I'm not picking up bits of glitter whilst I deal with the cover pink. So as you can see on the ring finger, I've applied a fairly large bead of the cover pink onto the center of the nail, and I'm bringing that towards the very free edge, just getting good coverage, trying to use my brush to pat and press and pull that acrylic nice and neatly and evenly over the surface of the nail. And then I will go in for a second bead and build up that coverage. I'm not adding too much bulk, as it were, but I want good colour payoff. I will be capping, you know, I'll always cap with clear, so I'm not building my strength, I'm just getting opacity with the colour. That's all I'm going for. Add another bead. This bead was a little bit wet, so it did start sliding down the nail, but I just used my brush and brush it back up to where I wanted it to be. There we go. So just keep pulling in your sides, because otherwise you'll lose the shape of the nail really easily. And then I'll add my bead up by that cuticle area, get that nice and neat first, and then I'll bring down the very front of the bead and blend it into the previous beads. I don't want to take the brush down from right the way at the back of the bead, because that would move the bead from where I placed it, and we don't want that. I wanted the colour payoff to be where I placed the bead, and there was a little bit of a dent here on the side, so I just filled that in with a little bit more. And I noticed there was another bit that was not quite opaque, so just added another bead. You know me, I don't count my beads, I add as many as it takes to get me a good nail, basically. As long as I've got the colour payoff and coverage that I'm going for, and there's no sort of see-through bits, then yeah, all good. I'll use as many beads as it takes. This brush is quite a big brush because these nails are very, very long, so I am using a big brush. But yeah, the beads look bigger than on here than they are in real life, we'll say that. So I'm going to cap this nail straight away. No need for me to wait, I'll just cap it straight away. So in with the clear to do that, of course. That first bead wasn't quite big enough for me to bring it down to the very free edge, so just add another bead there, blend it back into the previous bead, and then bring the rest of it down to the free edge. And then I will look at the free edge from down the barrel and just make sure that it's thick enough, and it wasn't quite thick enough, so I just added just a very small amount on the very tip and blended that back down or back up, whichever way you look at it. I'm so out of practice with my voiceovers, I kind of forget what I need to tell you guys. Some of this sort of comes back to me, but sometimes I kind of forget what I'm supposed to fill you in on. Anyway, in with that cuticle bead. Now when you place your cuticle bead, you want to make sure that there isn't a step or a ledge, so you want to sort of pat it at the very cuticle area so that it's nice and flush, and you get a nice curve up. And yeah, so it should curve up from the cuticle area, just rise up, hit your highest point where your apex is, and then slope down towards the tip. That's how it should go. So I'm just making sure I've got enough in my apex area and that I've got a good strong nail, because although these are very, very thick, the apex doesn't need to be huge, but you do want a decent apex to be able to have a strong nail, especially when they're this length. So I'll let that set up, and I'll go to the little finger and begin my ombre. So I'm using the cover pink to ombre over the glitter. So just a small bead at first, blend that over the glitter, get that ombre started. Then I will use my brush to pick up a smaller bead, put that by the cuticle area, tap that in, get that nice and neat, and then bring the front of that bead down. I didn't put quite enough there, so I just added another small amount. Make sure that cuticle area is nice and neat. You see how I'm just using the very tip of my brush to tap it into that cuticle area. So you want it as close to the cuticle as you can get, leaving sort of a millimetre gap so that you can get your file in that area, but you don't want to be touching the skin. So do be careful, because you don't want lifting. Nobody likes lifting. I'm just going to concentrate on my ombre now. So obviously glitter is very uneven, so when you ombre over glitter, it can be a little bit tricky to get the ombre even. So don't be afraid to take tiny little beads and just even out your ombre if necessary. Same again on that index finger, creating my ombre again. If your ombre comes down too far, you can just wet your brush and use your damp brush to remove any of the excess cover pink that you know that's come down too far, you can brush it away before it sets up. See there, I just had it add a little bit more to get my ombre a little even on the side there. Now I'll add my cuticle bead. I'm holding the fingers down. It might not look like it from this angle, but the fingers are always pointing down so that the gravity is pulling the bead downwards and away from the cuticle area. Because you've kind of got what looks like a bird's eye view on here, you can't really tell, but the fingers are actually pointing downwards. Always keep them pointing downwards, that way you're less likely to have your acrylic run back into your cuticle and sidewalls, if that makes sense. So finished with that ombre, and now I will cap. So just dampened that nail a little bit and then I will cap. Same as usual when you're capping glitter, a slightly wetter bead will sit over the glitter pieces easier than if you were to use a drier bead. Definitely better to have a slightly wetter bead for that. Let it sink into all of those little dips and grooves. You'll notice the difference, and it gives good clarity that way as well. You'll have a clear, if that makes sense, if the bead is slightly wetter when you apply it first over the glitter. Pat and press and stroke, you know what it's like. Gotta keep going. The more you do with your brush, the less you have to do with your file. So even if you're slow with your application, it's better to do it that way than to have loads and loads of filing to do with a totally out of shape nail. So you'll see I keep trying to swipe my brush down the sides of the nail so that I'm not losing the shape too much, and I'm just going to work my way up. And now I've reached the cuticle area, so this is where I'm thinking about my apex as well, don't forget, because when I put the cover pink on, I was not adding any bulk, I was just going for colour. Got a little bit of glitter in the way there. So yeah, at this point I am thinking about my apex and adding my strength, and I'll also look at that nail from all different angles, and if there are any low spots I will grab some more clear acrylic and fill those in. And I did have a bit of a dip on the side here, so I'm just filling that area in. Sometimes when you bring your bead down over the glitter, you'll miss bits at the edges of the sides, so always look at that nail from all different angles, and if you've missed any bits of glitter that are not capped, do make sure you go in with a little bit more clear acrylic and make sure they are totally encased and safely locked away so that you don't file into them. Same again on the index finger, applying my clear acrylic to encapsulate all of those luscious glitter particles. I'm getting all of this capping out of the way because I need to file in the middle finger, that stripe down the middle, that I need to file that in so that I get a nice straight line. So I would prefer to cap all of the other nails first so that I don't have to worry about any of the dust getting onto the other nails. So that's why I'm going ahead and capping before I've finished doing the middle fingernail. So same on this one, look from all different angles, make sure you bring in your sides as best as you can, keep that nail in as good a shape as you can, that way you've got less filing. Especially with super long nails like this, they do take much more time to file than shorter nails do. A little bit more technique because you have to be consistent with how you're holding your file right down the edges, especially on the side walls, to get them nice and straight. So yeah, definitely pay attention to what you're doing with your brush so that you have less to do with your file. Save your fingers. I know I need to save mine. Nearly there. Make sure you look from all different angles, like I said. Make sure your apex is there. Not too high, but high enough. So back to that middle finger, and I just realised that I didn't have enough acrylic over the top of it because I'd only placed that very wet layer. I hadn't built it up, which was a silly thing for me to do. What I should have done was built it up straight away, but for whatever reason I moved on to the next nail. After I put that first wet layer down, I should have then gone ahead and do what I'm doing now and built it up so that it was good to go, so that way when I file it in, I know that it's already at the height it needs to be, and then when I add my cover pink on the sides, I then just have to cap the sides, not the entire nail down the center, if that makes sense. Also, had I done that in the first place, I wouldn't then have to wait for this to set up before I could file into it, which is exactly what I had to do. So yeah, make better use of your time than I did with this one. I don't know what I was thinking by not capping it fully straight away, because after I'd finished this part I did have to wait for it to set up before I could file into it, which was annoying. Definitely annoying, but yeah, my own fault for not fully capping it straight away. I've tried to keep that fairly neat, but you can see, because you know the glitter is chunky, it's not quite as sharp a line as I would like, so definitely does need some filing to refine it. So I've checked from all different angles, I'm looking down the barrel, I'm checking from the side, and I'm trying to make sure that it's all sorted. Now when you're doing a glitter down the center like this, if you don't check the sides, they can be gaps, and if you leave those gaps there, when you fill in with the next color down the sides, the color can seep underneath and in between the glitters, and that will ruin the sharp line. So do pay attention to looking from the side angle and making sure that any little gaps are definitely filled in with clear acrylic. The last thing you want is a colour seeping underneath and in between, because it will totally erode your straight line. It just won't look as neat. Obviously if that's the look you're going for, that's fine, but I wanted a very sharp defined line between the glitter and the cover pinks, or cover pink. There's only one cover pink, I don't know why I said pinks. There we go. So I will let that set up, and then I will file it in. With the magic of the camera, you don't have to wait. Wonderful. So I started off with my hand file, and then I thought, oh, this is, because it's such a long nail, it was going to take a while, and it was hurting my hands to keep the pressure on the side of the nail, because obviously when you're filing in something, you want to press against the wall, not down onto the tip itself, and that can be a bit awkward to do on the Handolly with my fingers, because I have to support, and crampy fingers means holding a file as well as supporting the finger can be a bit difficult. So then I switched to this very small, it's like a cuticle bit, or an underneath the nail cleaner bit, and I decided to use that to tidy up the wall area on either side, and then I can refine it with the hand file afterwards. But if I do most of the work with this, then I've got less to do with the hand file, which will be easier for my poor hands. Now the same thing applies to using the e-file bit as using the hand file. You don't want to be pressing down onto the nail, you want to be only pressing against the wall itself, never down onto the nail. If you do this on a client, be so careful never to press down. Never press down, because you will file into the nail, and that's definitely not something you want. There we go, switch to that hand file and just neaten it up, make sure it's nice and straight, remove the dust, take a look at it. If it needs any more refining, go back in with the hand file. There we go, happy with that. So I removed the dust with just the brush, and then I use, well, nail brush, and then I use my monomer on my brush to dampen the nail down, and then I can add my cover pink along each side. So I'm starting with the right side first. It doesn't matter which side you start with first at all. Get that cuticle area nice and neat. I'm using small beads because I don't want to fight with a big bead down the nail, so I'd rather just use smaller beads. I'm not trying to add thickness, I just want the colour payoff. Like I said before, I will be capping it with the clear, so I'm just using enough of the cover pink to just fill in and have good colour payoff. So very small beads. I did use a smaller brush to add the glitter line down at first before I switched to the bigger brush when I was doing the full nails. I think I'm still using the bigger brush at this point. I don't think I switched back to the smaller brush. Yeah, it looks like I'm still using the bigger brush. Do that left side. Again, get that cuticle area nice and neat. Try not to touch the skin with the acrylic, but get it close to. And if you do find it running over a little bit, then use the very, very tip of your brush to just nudge that acrylic away from the skin. Now, it doesn't matter if I go over the top of the glitter with the cover pink, because remember we capped it already, so it doesn't matter if any of it goes over, that will get filed away, not a problem. Again, swiping down the sides, making sure we're not losing the shape too much, and checking from all different angles, making sure we've got good coverage, there's no see-through bits. It's nice and opaque right the way down, and all along that line is the walls met in height kind of thing, if that makes sense. Now I can cap. I'm not adding too much clear acrylic on the sides because obviously you don't want an over bulky nail, because you'll only end up filing it away anyway. So just enough to give it a little bit more strength, but just to fill out the rest of the nail, but you don't want to add loads onto the sides of the nail, because you can see how quickly that adds thickness to the side. So not a lot needed on the sides. The strength is concentrated in the center of the area, and I've already added a fair amount of clear acrylic down there, so not much was needed on the sides. And for thickness of your very free edge, the thickness stays the same with super long nails as it does with other nails. You're going for the free edge to be credit card thickness, no thicker than that. That's always the aim. You don't want a super bulky tip free edge. It just makes living with nails more difficult, and I just don't like the look of really thick nails. So for me, credit card or thinner is better for me, but you don't want to go too much thinner though, of course, because you don't want a nail to be very weak. You need that strength there still. I'll take one look at these nails over, make sure it's all good, and if I need to add any more acrylic to anywhere, I will do so. But yeah, all different angles, look at them all together, make sure they're all a similar width and height and thickness, and then we can get into the proper filing. So filing time. Are you a Frosty filing freak? If you are not, please feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp in the corner of the screen. But for those of you who are my triple Fs, here we go. So on this occasion I am starting out with just my sanding band first of all, whizzing around that cuticle area. I've got the sanding band on probably 7,000 or 8,000 RPMs, not very high at all. You want to be careful around that cuticle area. You know, you don't want to be cutting your client, but it wasn't too bulked out, so I didn't feel the need to use the carbide bit at this point. I thought I can get away with using the old sanding band. Sometimes I use the carbide bit. It all depends on how my application has gone that day, to be honest, and what kind of mood I'm in, really. On this occasion, yeah, the sanding band was fine for me to use, just to make sure that cuticle area is nice and flush, because you don't want any lips or any steps there. You want it to be blended into that natural nail, so as the nail grows out, you just won't get any hair caught underneath it or anything like that, and you won't feel anything or a step there that would be annoying to feel. I hope I'm making sense. So once that bit is done, I will use my hand file and tidy up the side walls, and my fingers were killing me, so I decided to use my e-file to do that first of all, and then I'll use my hand file so that I've got less to do. So when I'm having hard days with my fingers, I use my e-file as much as I need to. So by doing this bit with the e-file, it means I've got less to do with the hand file, and what I'm doing with the hand file is just refining rather than reshaping. And yeah, you can do loads with your e-file, but if you're not comfortable to do this part like this, then stick with your hand file. I do it because, you know, my fingers hurt at the end of the day, and I've got to do what's easiest for me. So if you are able to do this all with the hand file, then fantastic, you go for it. But if you are looking to save your fingers, then yeah, feel free to do this, what I'm doing, with your e-file, because it does make a huge difference in the amount of filing you would have to do with the hand file. So now I'm going to go over the body of the nail with the e-file and just tidy it up. Like I said, I want to make sure that I've got as little to do with the hand file as possible. So I'm just going to sort of debulk any lumpy areas, if that makes sense. Shave off any of the apex if it was too high. Just blend in that cuticle area into the apex. They're a little bit lumpy, but they're not too lumpy bumpy, so there's not so much filing to do with the hand file, with the e-file really. So I'm just going to reveal this colour block stripe down the centre of the nail. Oh, isn't it so satisfying to see a really nice crisp line reveal? I do love that. That's got to be my favourite part of filing, is when you reveal a nice sharp line. So I'm just looking at that nail from all different angles and making sure that it's even and that I'm not taking down more of one side than I have of the other. That wouldn't be good. Definitely not. Just removing the excess cover pink off near the cuticle area there, and just thinning out the free edge, blending it in. There we go. Onto the next nail. Just a little bit of shaping. It's a little bit bumpy, so we'll just even out the nail. That's all I'm doing really, is just evening out the surface of the nail and debulking a little bit. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Onto the little finger, same thing again, just tidying up, refining the shape. Not really too much debulking to do, but any lumps, yeah, we have to remove those lumps. We want a nice smooth nail. We don't want lumpy bumpy nails. Although this e-file bit has a black band, it's actually not a coarse bit, it's only a medium bit, it's not coarse at all. Once I've finished using that carbide bit, I will use my hand file. I'm using a 180 and 100 grit file to do the sidewalls, get them nice and straight. So I start off doing one side of the nail first. So at this point I'm doing just the side of the right first, and I will do that on all 4 of the nails because I'm not doing the thumb. All 4 of the nails, making sure that that side of the nail is nice and straight and neat and tidy. So I'll go onto the underarch, I'll rotate up and then go straight along the sidewall area, move on to the next finger, same again, and then that's when I finish the last finger, I will then do the free edge and the left side of the nail. My hand was cramping then. So again, it's the underarch, rotate up, do the sidewall. See, there we go, underarch, rotate up, do the sidewall. Hands are still cramping. Oh, so annoying. Yeah, and just get that nice and straight, and make sure you are supporting that nail. Can you see where I'm putting my fingers? I'm supporting that nail with my other fingers, and when I do the other side, the right side, you see I use my thumb and the side of my thumb, sort of the pad of my thumb, to also support the nail. When you're doing really long nails, it's really important that you're supporting that nail when you're filing, because it won't feel nice for a client if you're not supporting that nail. It can actually be quite painful if you don't support that nail. And you see, as I'm filing that free edge, I'm still supporting the nail by holding it at the nail bed area nice and firmly to do the very free edge. Same on all of the fingers, support with your fingers. Always support the entire length of that nail. Very important. And as you can see, I use my thumb and I hold down the nail bed when I'm doing the free edge, get that nice and squared off. And you see, I stop and look and make sure it's all even. And once I've got the nail looking nice and straight on both sides, make sure you're not filing one side more than the other, because you'll end up with a wonky nail. And you don't, because I'm going for a squared look, I'm not trying to taper them, so that's why you've got to hold your nail files, really straight. And yeah, now that I've finished that bit, I'll move on to my trusty sanding band to just whiz over the surface. Now you can use your hand file like a 100, 180 or a 180 file, should I say, over the surface of the nail rather than using your e-file, but my hands were killing me, so it's much easier for me to just use my sanding band over the surface of the nail and get it nice and smooth. But you can definitely use a 180 file to go up the sides, go around the cuticle area, down the other side, and then sort of violin motion over the center of the nail from cuticle to free edge. Definitely can do it that way. But with sore fingers, e-file it is for me all the way, as much as possible e-file. And you can see I'm still supporting that nail. You see I'm holding it at the very nail bed area, just holding it nice and firmly. You do the same on a client. I know this is Handolly and she's not real, but this is exactly the way you would need to do it on a client. You have to support the nail. So important. There we go, just blending it in. You can see how what areas I am concentrating my e-file on. So I do the up and down motion, so I'm pulling from cuticle to free edge downwards, and I'm working my way from left to right across the nail that way. You see, down, pulling down towards the free edge, down, 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 or just working my way across the nail to the other side. That's how you get a nice rounded even shape. And then to just totally make sure that it's nice and rounded, that's when I'll go from side to side, turn my e-file round so my e-file's more straight, and go from side to side. Here we go. So I'll go from the cuticle and go from side to side. Do you see that? So I'm just contouring as I go. There we go, side to side, side to side, and that just, I don't know, it just gives you a nice contour to the nail. Make sure you blend in those harsh lines that you filed into those sidewalls. Make sure you're blending those in. You don't want that squared off edge to still be there. You want to blend that in so that you've got a nice curve on the nail, especially when you're using these C-curve tips. You really want to play into it and have a lovely curved nail. No point using C-curve tips if you're not going to make the effort of getting a nice arch going. And stop and look. As often as it takes, stop and look. Look at the nail you're working on, look at it from all different angles. Don't forget to look down the barrel, make sure the nail is even from sidewall to sidewall, but also look at the other nails that you're working on. That way you get a nice cohesive uniform set of nails that all look similar. They don't have to be exactly the same, they just need to be similar. Oh, fighting with my hand files there. So I'm just making sure that these underarch and the free edge are nicely squared off, nicely even and not wonky. Just square them off so it's nice and sharp, nice and neat. Now, you know, it doesn't take long to just touch up, as it were. And then I can use my buffer. Now, you don't have to buff if you don't want to, but because these nails are very, very long, and because I didn't use my hand file to even up the surface, I like to go over with the buffer just to make sure that there are no lumps and bumps and that the surface is nice and smooth. Because obviously when you top coat, if the surface isn't nice and smooth, you will notice lumps and bumps because you'll have a disruption in your light lines from the shiny top coat. So that's how you can tell how smooth a nail is by the light lines. If your light line is really, really disturbed and it's not straight, then you know that you've got a bit of a lumpy nail. So I want to make sure I don't have that. Remove all of the dust, take one last look and make sure if there's anything else I need to tidy up, I will do it at that point, but there wasn't anything else to do, so I just gave Handolly a lovely little wipe down. And there we go. So I should say I removed the dust with the brush, and then I used some rubbing alcohol and a lint-free wipe that isn't lint-free. It's so annoying. Use one of those and some rubbing alcohol to just go over the surface of the nail, remove any of that last bits of dust. And now I'm going to use some of the SBD London Diamond Gel, which is fabulous stuff for applying crystals. I've got these chameleon type crystals, so they're blue and purple, which I thought would go perfect with this glitter mix, seeing as the glitter mix is blue and purple. So yeah, these are kind of two-toned, really cool crystals. I really like them. And seeing as I've got that stripe down the center of the middle nail, I figured, yeah, I'll do a stripe down the middle of the ring fingernail, or just a stripe of crystals, just to set it off. And that's it. And then we can top coat. So yeah, just gonna carry on sizing down. So I've put the bigger crystals in the center, and then I'm tapering off them down in size towards the cuticle and towards the free edge, you know, going out either side from this center of the nail. Use my little tool to just make sure they are nice and straight, and then nudge them a bit wrong and then have to fix them. You know what I'm like? I'm fussy. I will faff around until I get it exactly the way I want it. And once, that's the good thing with the diamond gel, they don't get stuck into place until you cure, so I can faff around and get it exactly the way I want it before I cure it in place. And there we go. So I'm happy with that now, so I'll flash cure that because it will get a full cure once I've put the top coat on. So now it's time to top it off and keep it tough. Oh yes. Oh, I love this bit. Let's see that glitter. Oh, look at that glitter. Isn't that glitter amazing? It's a crazy mix, isn't it? Oh, lush. It's a crazy mix. There's so much in that mix. It's ridiculous. Look at that. Oh, the hollow. Those hollow pieces, the silver hollow pieces, they're massive. They look awesome. The way they catch the light is just, stunning. Get that rainbow just playing along the surface. Brilliant. So, as you know, whilst we're top coating, you know that we've come to the end of the video. Very, very near to the end of the video. There are some photos and some video footage of the finished set after it's been cured at the end, but I'd like to take this opportunity right now to say thank you. Thank you ever so much for coming to my channel, watching this video, spending some of your most precious time with me. I appreciate you. Thank you ever so much. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. Join the Frosty Fam. We'd love to have you. If you've enjoyed this video in any way, shape or form, or it's helped you in some way, please go ahead and click that like button for me. Yeah, I'd really appreciate it, and it shows me that you are enjoying the content that I'm creating for you. And if you feel like it, you are more than welcome to leave me a comment. I am happy to talk to you. So this is the finished set, and that's all I have for this time, peeps. So you take care now, and I will speak to you all again very, very soon. Bye for now.
Soon I'm gonna make it, yeah.